is up, everybody? Keith, aka Gator Guy 231, and the EPL is back. Even though it really doesn't feel like it was gone that long, it is still good to have our weekend morning soccer's fix filled with hopefully some good Premier League action. It is nice that we get a 3-gamer to kick off versus just a 2-gamer. And I do think that there's a lot of edge to be had on this slate just based on the staggered start times, some new faces, a new team, and just, you know, overall, like, maybe some kind of old stale game logs that don't necessarily tell the full story. So looking forward to breaking it all down. Just a quick plug, please make sure that you subscribe to this YouTube channel if you want previews for every EPL and Champions League slate. We will be putting those on this channel all throughout the season. If you're looking for more soccer, you want your MLS covered, your Ligue 1, Interleague, all of that stuff, make sure to check out the details. There's a link on the cheat sheet where you can subscribe for as low as $10 a month. Gets you coverage of everything, including core plays, chat, all that you need to do to be successful. With that out of the way, let's jump right into the cheat sheet, where we'll go over some set piece stickers, odds, and then kind of go over lineups and kind of some roster construction. So 3 games on the slate. The first game, which thank goodness it's the first game because I think it has some of the most roster uncertainty of the slate, but Palace hosting Southampton. Southampton on, you know, the verge of their great end to the season, and Palace's terrible end to theirs, where they lost 7 of the last 8. Southampton is a slight favorite. Second game, we have newly promoted Leeds going to Liverpool. Liverpool's over a -300 favorite, and you know that's going to obviously be a lot of where we use our salary and where a lot of attention is going to go. Also the highest total of the slate. Then finally, the final game, the crap game of the day. I guess the first one is too, but West Ham versus Newcastle. Who knows? Both these teams could either be like challenging for mid-table, or both could be in a relegation fight by the end of the season. So that will be an interesting one to watch as well. Let's go right into the teams, where I'll kind of talk about the set piece stickers as we go. So I mentioned that Crystal Palace versus Southampton, thank God it's first. And in actuality, like, thank God it's first because we really need to know about Palace. Now, I kind of cringe saying that because I don't think Palace is particularly DFS friendly. I don't want to overweight their sets. I think Southampton actually might be quite good. But that said, first off, our biggest value play is Mitchell at left back. I don't think Van Aanholt is ready yet. I did a little quick searching, couldn't really find anything definitive, but I would expect Van Aanholt is not going to start, which should put Mitchell at 2,600 as pretty much a slate lock. We're going to need savings. There are a few other plays I can mention, but no one that could, you know, get like 5 to 6 and maybe even more as easily as Mitchell could. He is an actual true fullback, and 2,600. Let's be real, it's just close to a misprice. It's 100 above site minimum, so I think that's just a play that you lock in and go. Let's talk about Palace before we go to Southampton. So their new big signing in the offseason was Eze from QPR. He used to take some sets at QPR. Here's the thing. First off, I don't think he's by any means a lock to walk in and take sets. And then secondly, Hodgson came out and said he's not match fit. So even if we get him starting, he's probably not fit for 90. The guy I do really want to look for, that I quite like, he ended the season awesomely, was splitting sets, was even doing a little bit more open play crossing than he, kind of more vintage him, is Andros Townsend. Was also drawing fouls at an elite rate at 50. I think it's either 56 or 5,800. I think that he makes for a really good cash play, and kind of the first Palace guy I'm looking for. If he's not in, and you don't see McCarthy in, but you see Luka Milojevic, there's a really good chance that he will be on set pieces. I know in some friendlies that IU was taking. I guess that's a chance IU takes, but I really do think we have a long sample of, you know, if we don't see a lot of these other guys, that Milojevic will be on them. Still on PKs too. He's by far their best PK taker, and does give you some defensive peripherals too. So I think in the mid 4K range, I don't know if he'll be a core play for me if he's in, but I want to see the likes of McCarthy not in, and I want to see Townsend not in before I really give Luka Miljosevic a long thought. Outside of them, I do think that the rest of Palace is more GPP. I think Eze, if in, is definitely GPP until we see him on sets and we see that he's fit, for longer than six. Like, what you don't want to have happen is you lock in a guy, above 6K and he subs off at half. Like, in the first game, like, you're screwed. The rest of the day is gonna suck. So I don't think I'm gonna be on that. Zaha obviously is always in play. I do think he fits more GPP because I think if you're going to spend up at forward, you probably want to try to find your route to a Liverpool guy. Then Jordan Ayew, I do think is actually an elite GPP play. Again, a lot of people are going to be spending up for Liverpool pieces, so maybe you can kind of fall in the middle. Maybe Ayew is on set pieces, and even if he's not, we know, honestly, he was having a Zaha-like floor, but is always still going to be lesser owned than Zaha due to name recognition. So I think, Ayew could actually be my favorite GPP play from the Palace side. All right, let's move over to Southampton. Here's the issue with Southampton. I actually like them here. I think that they're a great GPP stack potentially. Just if they can keep the form that they ended on, the likes of stacking Ward-Prowse and Ings together is really intriguing, or maybe even getting like a Che Adams. If he starts alongside of Ings, won't be owned at all. Stuart Armstrong maybe comes in the mix. You have a lot of interesting guys. I know that this prediction has like Will Smallbone. He's never been anybody that I want to target. But all these guys, I like all of them, yet their pricing is just like really, really difficult to fit any of them into your builds. I think the one guy that, early on will be a slate decider is, are you going to pay up for James Ward-Prowse? I think he's solidly priced at 9,200. I was really hoping, it's interesting because at 8,200 he's probably like a slate lock and everybody's just building around him. At 9,200 it really does make us pause. Here's what I'll say about him, and I'm going to talk a little bit more on the Liverpool side too, but Salah and Mane, who are going to be very, very owned, and for good reason, they both are going to need a goal or assist to really pay off their price. You can see a route where like Crystal Palace scores early and James Ward-Prowse goes nuclear for like 15 crosses, multiple shots, fouls drawn, shots assisted, all this stuff, and he could get to like 15 to 20 DK without a goal or assist. Salah and Mane cannot do that. So the cash side of me really still thinks I'm leaning towards playing Ward-Prowse. Not going to be a core play because I think the decision is far too costly one way or another. Like, I think if you fade James Ward-Prowse and he goes off and he goes nuclear, I think you still have a really good shot to cash. Like, look, you're sitting there with Mane or you're sitting there with Salah and you go, look, fine, let me just get a goal and assist from them and I'll be good. But if you do play Ward-Prowse and let's say that, Southampton go up early, Ings scores in the first 10 minutes and then Che Adams scores again and Ward-Prowse isn't part of either of those, I think you're in trouble because, he's really going to need the game script to go his way, to get all those sets, to get all those crosses, to get all those peripherals that we want to see. If they go in a defensive mode too early, it could really hurt. So that's why I think Ward-Prowse could easily be one of the most important decisions on the slate. I do like him quite a bit. The fullbacks to me are a little overpriced. I think we're going to be going Liverpool fullbacks and Mitchell. So if you want to be contrarian with them, that's fine. And then again, the strikers, more GPP. All right, let's move to Liverpool and Leeds. So Liverpool, biggest favorite on the slate, biggest total on the slate, reigning league champs. Obviously, they're the most important decision. I think most people are just going to kind of lock and load Andrew Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Alexander-Arnold wasn't playing in friendlies, but just did come off of, what was it, like 82 minutes for England on international duty. So his fitness, to me, is not an issue. So he'll be the first guy into my lineups. If for some unknown reason he does not start, then we'll pivot from there. But we're going to have the salary. We'll have some pieces to do it. I don't think you're going to go, oh my God, he's not in. That would have changed everything from the first game. Like, I don't see that at all. So, and then if he's out, you're probably going to get Nico Williams there, who's a good crosser in himself. So you could easily just go to Nico and then take that extra salary and move up. But Trent Alexander-Arnold within, a little joke on our FSI Discord and on these videos is, you know, he is one of the DFS gods in the EPL because just crosses every single ball he gets a chance to cross, has an elite floor, and then the crazy part, because he's defender, Draftkings never prices him adequately. Like, if he was a midfielder in the slate, he'd be 10K, but because he's a defender, they're still pushing like their own like algorithm or their own, you know, cost structure on these prices. But at 8K, he's still underpriced for his rolling free kicks. He's splitting sets with, that's Mane and Salah. So like I said, you know, they are by far the two highest goal scoring odds in the slate. The two guys that, you know, most likely if you get a goal notification, it's gonna be one of them. You know, the offense, while I say that the fullbacks are the most important part of the offense, they're still important because their job is to get delivery to those two guys, not only from crossing, but because of their movement. So I think that both Mane and Salah are going to be super popular, are great plays in cash, are great plays in GPP. But I will just say this, and maybe this is my James Ward-Prowse thoughts and bias coming in. You are going to be able to make up one goal from Mane and Salah. Anything under 20, I think you can make up. What you might not be able to make up is if Salah scores 3 goals, or if Mane goes 2 goals and assists. That type of game, or if Liverpool just absolutely blows over Leeds, which I don't think is a guarantee by any means, but that's going to be hard to overcome, is that type of game. So you've got to like sit down in your lineups and decide, do I think that they can end me? And if you decide that they can end you, or you just really like those players, then you go for it. But I do think, especially if we get a guy like Townsend in, there is a route to not playing either Salah or Mane, and maybe, you know, you try to make that up by playing like Alisson, you know, and if it's 4-0 drubbing, I still think Leeds is actually going to get Alisson some activity in nets. Like, Leeds is a very offensive team. They made a lot of offensive moves in the window, so there's a really good chance that Alisson, if he can stay clean and Liverpool win, you know, it could end up showing up with 20. And it's a little bit harder to build in Alisson with Mane and Salah. So that would just kind of be my Liverpool take. And then, you know, if you want to go true GPP, Roberto Firmino, Liverpool really needs to get more goals from him. He does play as more, even though he shows up as a striker, he really does play more as a 10. He drops way back deep sometimes to get the ball, and it really helps the offense, but he still gets his opportunities. So if you want to really be contrarian, I think that Firmino is a great pivot off. Last guy I just want to note, with Wijnaldum being rumored at Barcelona, there's a really good chance he doesn't start, and maybe we see either Keita or Milner in. To me, both are GPP. If Milner is in without Trent Alexander-Arnold, he would actually split sets with Robertson, so he would be a cash play. But if you see Trent Alexander-Arnold and you see Robertson, Milner is not going to be on sets. He probably will be on PKs, but he'd be more GPP for me. And then Keita at his current price is still GPP. Nice player, but almost always subs off early. It's going to need a goal or assist to pay off. All right, jumping over to Leeds. I don't think that this is the slate where you, you know, prioritize anybody from Leeds. I do think there's, if you want to be really contrarian, like, they're not going to have any ownership, but just want to highlight 2 guys. One is Calvin Phillips, defensive midfielder, but takes almost all their sets when on. He's 4,600. I think he's okay. I don't think he's a great play. I don't think he's a must play. I don't think any of that. I just think he's solid, and if I loved everything else about my lineup and it fell on him, I'd be okay with that. I think even because of his defensive peripherals and a few set pieces, I think there's a good chance he shows up with like 5 to 8 points, which is just fine. The other guy I want to bring up is Jack Harrison. So he can jump on some sets from time to time, but he's like 3,100. If we don't get any sort of awesome value, I didn't even bring up like Max Meyer, but he's been starting some friendlies for Palace, which would be a really interesting value. You play Max Meyer, though, all of a sudden you look down and you see like 3-4 players from Palace and Southampton in your lineup, and you go, oh, shit, did I make a mistake? But anyhow, I think Jack Harrison, like 3,100, like give you 5-6 points, and shoot, like he's the type of guy with a little bit of pace up the wing that could give Liverpool a little bit of trouble on the counterattack. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've played crazier plays than that. and he's almost free by Draftkings standards, so I don't think he's a bad play at all. But you know, in terms of spending up for, you know, the fullbacks, or spending up for like Moreno or all that, I'll probably pass on the slate from like an optimal and probably even GPP standpoint, and stay a little bit more practical. But again, if you want your just like YOLO GPP stack that nobody's going to be on, definitely is Leeds. All right, final game, West Ham versus Newcastle. Obviously, this is the last game on the slate, meaning we will not know the rosters. I do think we have a fairly good idea of what's going to happen in terms of who we need to target. So on the West Ham side of things, let me start with what we do know. I think Jared Bowen is potentially the most popular forward on the slate. I think that Salah and Mane will kind of eat at each other's ownership, and then Jared Bowen should stick out to most people as the best floor play at the forward spot on half of West Ham set pieces, and showed awesome open play value too last season after the transfer from Hull City. So, you know, really good chance of double digits, especially versus Newcastle. We know Newcastle under Steve Bruce, especially away from home, likes to bunker, will accept a lot of pressure, accept crosses, all of these things. So I think Jared Bowen is a phenomenal play and likely a core play for me. After that, I think Mikel Antonio ended the season awesomely, but does fit a lot more of the GPP profile, especially versus Newcastle. When you do have a team that's bunkering, it's a lot less space for a center forward to work. You know, a lot of your DFS production is going to come from your wide players, so like Bowen, maybe even like Cresswell, that type of guy, versus Antonio's really going to need to score or assist to have any shot at value. I think his price is weird. You could definitely leverage ownership off of Bowen for the 200 more, but from like an optimal or a cash standpoint, it's Bowen all day. The rest of West Ham is kind of dark. I think the other play that you could consider in cash is Mark Noble. Noble normally has PK duty, and at the end of the season was taking half the sets for West Ham with Bowen. Issue is in open play, he has really no open play value at all. And he's like, what, like 5,200, so I think he's fine. Like, he's an okay play, but he's kind of like a last man in for me versus like a building block. Now, the one guy I kind of do want to just mention for a cheap punt, the only issue is if you are banking on him to play and he doesn't, you might get a little lost, is Ben Johnson. Former highly regarded West Ham product, had some injuries, but finally at the end of the season was starting. Had a few good crossing games, but 3,100 might start at right back over Fredericks. But I think that that's very in play, but he's midfield only eligible. So with us probably playing 3 defenders, you're going to have to see, and I haven't done enough looking, if at 3,100 there are other options in that final game. But that's kind of where I go with Jack Harrison. I think there's a little bit more, at least I know if Jack Harrison's in, versus having to wait in that final game and being stuck with like a true like holding to, like, I don't even know if, I don't have my player pull up, but I don't even know if Isaac Hayden is down that low. So it just could be tough if you don't get him. So if you do like Ben Johnson or he's in your GPP, I'm definitely okay with the play. Just make sure you make some plans around it and have like a second pivot point that you can do. All right, that should about do it for the West Ham side. On the Newcastle side of things, they signed Ryan Fraser this offseason. That's obviously going to eat into set pieces at some point, but Steve Bruce said he's not fit for 90, so I would not expect him to start. And even if he did start, not somebody that we're going to want to wait on or build around. John Joe Shelby and Matt Ritchie split sets to end last season. Both of them are touch and go, according to Steve Bruce. Who the hell knows what that means? I think that neither of them fit a lot of builds that I'm on, which is good for me, I guess. So I don't have to deal with it. But, you know, I'm always more prone to play Matt Ritchie than Shelby just because of open play value. Ritchie always is going to be wide, loves to cross the ball. And from a game script standpoint, if Newcastle falls behind, he starts crossing the ball a ton. So I think he's fine, but maybe more like a GPP play than like a cash staple. Outside of that, like, Newcastle is not a team that we want to target for DFS when we have other options. So I just think that that's how we're going to treat it today or on Saturday. Is they're just like kind of an afterthought. and maybe like GPP leverage plays versus any sort of must-haves or must-plays by any means. All right, guys. Well, I really do appreciate you guys watching. I hope this helps in your building. If you're still around and you haven't hit that subscribe button, make sure to do it now. We really cannot thank you enough for that, and look forward to helping you guys win throughout the season. Once again, Keith, aka Gator Guy 231, and good luck in your contest. See you.